Hi, I'm Molly Fisher, and for my intermediate read aloud nonfiction book, I am reading Animals by the Numbers, a book of animal infographics by Steve Jenkins. So if I was going to introduce this book to my students, it's recommended for 4th through 6th graders, so that's the grades that I would use it for. I would start by just asking them what some of their favorite animals are, and give as many students who wanted to answer would be able to. And then once I had a lot of ideas of their favorite animals, then I would start kind of picking 2 students at a time and asking them to compare their animals. So if Blake liked sharks and Charlie liked alligators, we would talk about, okay, what do those 2 animals have in common? What's different about them? What do you think they have in common? Do you think they eat the same thing? Do you think they sleep at the same times? What are some things about them that are similar? And then we would talk about the differences. And we could do that with a few different of students' favorite animals, and just make some of those comparing and contrasting ourselves. And then I would talk about one of my favorite animals, which is the giraffe. And I would talk about just some little facts about giraffes that students probably wouldn't just know off the top of their head. Like, did you know giraffes only sleep 2.5 hours in a whole 24-hour day? That's kind of interesting. Not something that you probably just knew. And then we'll talk about how this book is going to give us a ton of facts about animals. Animals that even we think we might know a lot about. There are probably some things in this book about them that you didn't already know. So that could be just a fun intro to the book, get them excited about reading this particular book, get them excited about learning about some of their favorite animals and maybe animals that they don't really know about. So the structure of this book is definitely comparing and contrasting. Throughout the whole book, it takes different animals and compares them in a lot of different ways about a lot of different things, and talks about some things that certain animals have in common that you wouldn't maybe think about. So that's the structure. The text features, the biggest text feature in this book is just visuals. The whole way that they portray this information is through visuals, through graphics, through graphs and through charts and different ways to show the kids the facts instead of just reading them to them. So even the contents, the table of contents in the beginning, you can see is full of pictures. So it breaks them off into what each page is about. So like on page 6 and 7, it talks about the animal kingdom. Then on 8 and 9, it talks about the animal species, size, biomass, speed. And it breaks it down into all these different categories that they compare about these animals, as well as putting a little picture to give them an idea of what's going to be on that page as well. So that's one of its features. Also at the end, it has just a little bibliography about where Steve Jenkins got his information, some of the books he used, and a couple websites as well. So then let's just jump in. I'll just show you some of my favorite pages in this book. There's a lot of them. I think this whole book is really awesome. But I'll just show you a few of my favorites. So this page is on the biomass of different animals. So maybe before doing this page, you would probably want to talk about biomass with your students and what that means. So biomass is the whole collection of weight for a certain species. So the biomass of humans would be like, if all of the humans on the entire planet got on a scale, how much would we all weigh together? That's our biomass. So our biomass is 350 million tons. So on this page, each of these circles, the size of the circle represents the biomass of that species. So without even reading, you can see which species has the largest biomass. This one right here, it's the biggest circle. So the bristlemouse fish has the biggest biomass. Looks like the second is termites. I don't know, cattle's probably next. Antarctic krill, squid, humans, we are up there too. And then you can compare it and you can ask, you know, who has a bigger biomass, the elephant or the squid? And, you know, your students can easily compare those two and, oh, well, that one has the biggest circle, that one must be bigger. And it's really cool information, I think. If you ask your students who has the biggest biomass, humans or elephants, a lot of them would probably think elephants, they're huge. But if you look at this, you can actually see, look how tiny the elephant's dot is compared to ours. So even though they're bigger than us, one elephant is bigger than one human, there are a lot more of us. So there's a lot of discussion that you could have, a lot of predicting, a lot of comparing that you could do on this page with these circles. It's one of my favorite pages. The next page, it kind of continues, same idea. Here's the human's biomass again, and if you look, all the insects in the world are this red one. It can't even fit on this page. Their biomass is so big. So I love how he portrays this, because it's, you know, you could just have your students read, you know, humans are 350 million tons, insects are 100 billion tons. And just hearing that information, you can't really, it sounds like they are bigger, but you can't really, I don't know, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal until you see it like this and you really visualize it and see the gravity of just how much bigger their biomass is than ours. So I think this is a really cool visual of that information. Another page that I really like is this, the bottom of page 21, and it just shows how many hours animals sleep in a 24-hour period by the picture. So each circle represents the 24 hours in a day, and then the yellow part represents the time that they're awake, and the purple time is the time that they are asleep. So again, without even asking your students to read, you could just ask them, who sleeps the most in a day? And you can tell by how much purple is on here that it's the bat sleeps the most, the giraffe sleeps the least. So this would be a really cool book for especially those struggling readers who just have that craving to learn knowledge, but they struggle with the reading. You know, this book is a great way for them to get a lot of knowledge just by looking at pictures and really hearing information that way. This is another cool page about horns and the different horns that animals have, the different sizes, shapes, colors. I think this would be a really cool page or activity to do when you are working on graphs and charts in math class. You could even make some predictions before reading that page and talk about, okay, let's take a poll and see who thinks what animal has the biggest horn. And then, you know, you could find as a class who voted for what the most, and then you could compare it with this page. Would be a great way to incorporate this into your math lesson. This is also a cool one, I think. Which animal causes the most human deaths? I'm sure some of the boys in your classrooms would like to hear that page. So again, you could just present that question to your kids. Which animals do you think cause most deaths? And again, you can make another chart for what they think. And this one's really cool because my guess is you're going to hear a lot of kids say sharks or lions or bears cause the most death. But if you look at the bottom, how many kids are going to say the hippopotamus or the Cape buffalo? But those actually have a lot more deaths than the sharks and the tigers, the lions. So again, it's a really cool visual of just how much more. The crocodile has a lot. How much more of those animals cause deaths compared to the shark. And each of these little people, equals 20 deaths. So you could do this in math class as well, do some multiplication. How many, if he has 6 people, how many deaths is that actually? You can work on that. So those are just some of my favorite examples from the book. Every page on this book I think is good and has a lot of potential for entire lessons just based off 1 or 2 pages. So I definitely recommend this for any classroom.